all I can say in the aggregate is that as we make a case to a young person about joining, male or female, and it doesn't matter what service, what service you're talking about. I mean, we try to make clear to them that yes, service in the military can endure hardship. It can be dangerous. It is dangerous, but that there is also great opportunity in terms of education and learning skills, building leadership ability, and the sense of pride that comes with serving in the military. And when you sign that dotted line, that we commit back to you to make good on those promises as best we can, and that your health, your physical well-being, your mental health. You know, we were just talking about suicides a little bit ago, and this is Mental Health Month. That your health, your total health, matters to us, and that when you come in, we're going to care for that. And so again,
just a quick. Do you think at this point there is, and I'm just asking your view, there's a risk to readiness if you cannot maintain the appeal of military service to women? Are you concerned it could get to that point?
Again, I want to separate this from the current debate now with respect to abortion rights. But the short answer to your question is, of course, yes. Of course, we cannot be an effective military without the brave women who serve inside the military and who serve in the civilian ranks. Think about the ways in which they contribute literally to operational readiness every day and are commanding at the highest levels, including 2 combatant commanders. It's important for the military to represent all of America. Not just because it's important representationally, it's important operationally. And I've seen it myself at sea on ships. And why on earth would we not try to attract the best talent in America, regardless of background, as long as they're qualified and meet the requirements to come in? And there's lots of them, education and physical as well. But we would be to your question, we would be literally cutting into our readiness if we weren't talking with men and women about their concerns about joining and what anxiety or worries they might have and how we could allay those or address those. And then to continue to do that and to have those conversations as one progresses through one's career so that all those opportunities remain available to you. Yeah, go ahead.
So just to follow up and raise it just a notch, the military has a great history of women on the tech side and science side making extraordinary contributions. And the White House is signing a national security memorandum today about quantum. And women in science and technology, this is one of the areas where they are also leading, making leading contributions. So I'm just asking whether you might be concerned about the kind of workforce and being able to attract the workforce that can do the work that's needed in the science, in the quantum area.
Again, I think, yes, of course we're concerned about that. We want a wide range of skills here in the military. Thank goodness there wasn't, in 1986, a strong emphasis on quantum intelligence, or I never would have gotten in. I mean, we don't, yes, STEM matters, and you saw in the budget we just submitted the highest ever amount of investment money we're asking for from Congress for research and development in science and technology. It's absolutely critical. You can't call China a pacing challenge and Russia an acute threat and then not try to invest in capabilities that allow you to get at dealing with those challenges and those threats. So it's absolutely vital to us. And we recognize that knowledge and scientific acumen doesn't just reside in one gender or the other. So, of course, we're concerned about that. And that's why, back to my answer to Barbara, we're going to be diverse in who we try to bring in. We bring in the best talent that we can, and then keep that talent. But we also need people who don't specialize in STEM, because there's a lot of skills in the military that require a different set of intellectual capacities and capabilities. Again, thank goodness for me, or I wouldn't have been able to join the United States Navy. That you have to be broad in how you're looking at who you're bringing in, and the broader the better, quite frankly. Yes.
On the and Liz with Fox News.
You're not Mike Stone from Reuters, are you? No. Okay.
On the most recent North Korea ballistic test launch, is the timing of it concerning to you, considering President Biden is going to be in South Korea later this month, and Japan later this month? And is there anything different in particular with this test launch?
Well, we're still analyzing this launch. We're certainly aware of a ballistic missile launch yesterday, and we're consulting closely, as you might expect, with Japan and with our South Korean allies, as well as other partners in the region. So I don't have anything more on this launch. As for timing, I don't think we can say specifically that it's time for anything in particular. There's never a good time, quite frankly, for the DPRK to conduct these kinds of tests, and that's the larger point. So we'll consult with allies and partners in the region, and we'll continue to assess what happened here. We continue to call on the North to stop these provocative tests and to be willing to sit down, as we have offered we would be willing to do without precondition, and discuss a diplomatic way forward here to denuclearize the North.
And quick follow-up, they've more than doubled the number of test launches since last year. Is the U.S., twice as concerned? How concerned is the U.S. compared to last year?
We're still very deeply concerned about these tests and the provocative nature of their continuing ballistic missile program. And that is why, again, we have, not just the United States, but the international community has condemned these provocations. They are violations of UN Security Council resolutions. That's why we have called for the North to sit down, again, without precondition, and have a discussion. And it's also why we continue to focus on the readiness of our alliance in Japan, and meeting today with the Minister of Defense, and our alliance with our South Korean allies as well there on the peninsula. Yeah, Rio.
Thank you. I want to ask you about the Secretary's meeting with Japanese Defense Minister Kishi. The Japanese government is revising its own national defense strategy. So what input did the Secretary give to the Japanese counterpart to enhance the U.S.-Japan defense cooperation, and to make sure Japanese strategy is closely aligned with the U.S. national defense strategy?
They did have a discussion today about our national defense strategy and the Japanese national security strategy, and I think the Secretary came away from the meeting feeling that they were very much aligned, and that is not a surprise because of our close alliance with Japan and the close, deep collaboration and cooperation we have military to military. So I think there was a very good discussion about that, and the Secretary doesn't have any concerns.
Follow-up. The Mr. Kishi said on top of the meeting that they would discuss the extended deterrence to the Northeast Asia. So could you tell us more about what they discussed in greater detail? And does the Secretary think there should be some additional steps to keep the extended deterrence robust and credible?
Yeah, I'm not going to get more detailed than what we've already read out. They certainly talked about the importance of integrated deterrence in the region. This is something the Secretary has talked about since almost the day he took office. And integrated deterrence isn't just about integrating our joint capabilities. It's about integrating allies and partners' capabilities in conjunction with ours to deter potential adversarial action. And that certainly applies when you're talking about the pacing challenge that China represents. It certainly was discussed today with Minister Kishi, but I'd let the Japanese speak to specific extended deterrence issues with respect to their home islands. Again, the issue of deterrence and China's continued bellicosity and aggressive and coercive moves was absolutely discussed, but I won't go any more detail than that. Okay? Yeah.
Liz from Fox kind of asked my question, but...
okay, then we'll go to the next one.
One more. The minister today said that North Korea has become a greater and more imminent threat. And I'm wondering if the Pentagon agrees with that sentiment, that it's greater and more imminent, and also if there's anything that you could flesh out, and I know you're going to tell me to ask the Japanese about this, but I'm asking if there's anything that you could flesh out about why particularly the recent tests, or even this test just yesterday by North Korea, may make North Korea a more imminent threat.
I think with each test, Court, they learn, even if it's a failure. And again, we're still assessing this one, so I'm not going to get into the details of it. But with each test, they learn. With each test, they try to improve, and sometimes they actually do. So when we talk about greater, I think that's what we're all talking about. And we would agree that the threat from North Korea continues to increase because they continue to test, because they continue to learn, because they continue to adapt their program. It would be foolish not to assess that the threat they're posing is actually increasing over time. Yeah, in the back there.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm Coach from Kyoto News Japanese Media. I want to ask about the Japan. The Liberal Democratic Party of Japan has recommended the Japanese government to possess counterattack capability. In light of China's military rise, how
in light of Chinese military's rights?
Rise.
Right.
Oh, rise.
All right, I see. Sorry. How the Pentagon evaluate about this discussion?
I think it. Go ahead. Do you have another one?
No. How do you think the U.S.-Japan defense cooperation change if Japan possess counterattack capability?
Yeah, I think I'm going to avoid wading into Japanese politics domestically. So I'm just simply not going to speak to that. I would just say a couple of things. Again, the alliance with Japan is rock solid and gets better every year. And this is something that we're very dedicated to. I mean, with the first trip the Secretary took overseas was to Tokyo and to Seoul. And he was very glad to meet with the defense minister here today. We're always looking at ways to improve our collective defensive capabilities, and certainly with an eye on what China's doing in the region, no question about that. And again, I'd point you back to our budget submission, which the Secretary just testified to yesterday, and the kinds of capabilities that are in there designed to help us with the pacing challenge of China. And that was what the discussion was about, or part of the discussion was about today with Minister Kishi, about how we continue to pursue this vision of integrated deterrence, again with an eye towards China. But as for internal Japanese politics and proposals to the government in Tokyo, I think I'd let the government in Tokyo speak to that. I hope you can understand that, Tony.